Whether you like it or not, money play a big role in our society, right? You need it to pay your bills, to go out, have fun, pretty much do anything. It's just like air, right? You don't really think about it till you do not have enough of it. And that's why the more money you have, the easier it gets. Now, I know some people might say money isn't everything, right? But let's be real, money is very important. And I feel like the only people who says that are people who doesn't have money. And that's why today I want to share with you 7 key pieces of money advice for those of you in your 20s. And these tips are a mixture of things that I did right and things that I wish I could go back and do differently. So if you're new here, welcome. My channel is all about personal finance and sustainable fashion. I won't keep you waiting for too long, guys. Let's delve into those tips. All right, let's start off with the big one, budgeting. And honestly, I feel like if I was to budget better in my 20s, I could have been a millionaire by now. Because I remember back when I was in college, I used to have money coming in from financial aid. Plus, I had money also coming in from my part-time job. But instead of managing it wisely, I pretty much took all that money and spent it partying and hanging out with my friend. And I just feel like if somebody was to just sat me down and said, you know, Fabrice, you need to start budgeting, things would have turned out so differently from how it is right now. And that's why I want to be the first one to tell you, for our number one tip, you need to start budgeting. And one thing you gotta understand is budgeting isn't just about keeping track of your money, right? It's more about understanding how money flow in and out of your life, because it keeps your finances organized. And another thing it does is it helps you manage your expenses so you don't end up going into debt, right? Plus, I just feel like it's a great way to discipline yourself, because if you budget, it gives you more control over your money instead of just going out and spending it all. And one of the reasons I'm saying this is because when I started budgeting, everything felt completely different. It kind of felt like I had a little bit more control over my finances and my life felt a little bit more organized. And that's why if you're somebody who's struggling to manage your money, you should check out my beginner friendly video on how to make a budget from scratch. And it should be somewhere up here, either that way or that way. But anyway, guys, committing to budgeting in your 20s, it's probably going to be one of the best decisions you ever make. So start early. Tip number 2, adopt some good money habit. So what does that mean exactly? Well, it's pretty simple, right? Live within your mean. And I feel like I had to learn this the hard way, because I remember back in college, right? I used to spend so much money on expensive clothes and the latest Jordans just so I can go impress my friends and other people I don't even know. And now that I'm thinking about it, I just find it so crazy. And it's crazy because let's be realistic, right? We all been there, like where we would go out, spend money on things we don't even need just so we can impress other people. Like, that's crazy. And think about it, right? And I know a lot of people is going to try to deny this in the comment, but have you ever purchased something not because you wanted it, but because you wanted to impress somebody else? Again, we've all been there. And check this out, let me be the first one to say this: no one cares. I don't care. And as crazy as it sounds, you're going to get your 5 minutes of fame, and by the end of the day, everyone is going to move on with their life. That's just how simple it is. And guess what? You're going to be left standing here. You're down hundreds or possibly thousands of dollars because you wanted to show up for other people. And that's why I say adopt good money habits, right? Because there's no need for you to impress anybody else. And if you are going to buy something, make sure it's within your budget, and buy it because it makes you happy, not because you're looking for somebody else's validation or because you're trying to impress somebody else. And trust me, guys, if you live like this, it's going to save you a lot of stress and financial headaches in the long run. Number 3, build an emergency fund. You guys would not understand how many times I went broke because I never had an emergency fund. And the funny thing about emergencies is they would always pop up when you least expect them to. But that's life, right? You learn, you adjust, and you keep moving forward. But just don't be like me though, because I felt like I had to learn the hard way multiple times before I finally realized that I need to set some money aside for future emergencies. And that's because, like I was saying earlier, right? I used to spend a lot of money on a lot of unnecessary items. So whether you put $100 aside every week in a separate saving account, it's better to try to have at least 6 to 9 months worth of fund available. So when an emergency does decide to pop up, you have some money to rely on. Because what you don't want to do is get caught without an emergency fund, and then you end up having to rack up a lot of credit card debt when an emergency does end up coming up. Because I'll tell you this, things can turn left quick. Things can turn left quick and set your entire existence into a whole new world of problem. So trust me when I tell you this, guys. Build an emergency fund and your future self will thank you. Tip number 4, build excellent credit. So I would say that having an excellent credit score can open a lot of opportunities for you, from things like buying a car to potentially even owning a home. So the key is, guys, good credit is key. Which also goes back to the idea that why you want to have an emergency fund, so like that you don't end up racking up a lot of debt, which can end up messing up your credit score, right? And also having the ability to budget your money more effectively, which can indirectly impact your credit. And I hate that I have to say this, by the way, But to build credit, you need a credit card. And this isn't financial advice, by the way, just to put this out there right now. But I would suggest starting with a credit card with a low spending limit. So what you want to do is you want to use it for your basic necessities just to see how things manage. Don't overspend, by the way. You don't want to end up going broke. The idea is you want to be comfortable with it enough so that over time you can see if you can manage how much you're spending every month. And here's the crucial part. Always pay it back in full, because once the interest start to hit you, it's going to be very difficult to keep your credit score in check. So you should only spend the amount you're willing to pay back, because building excellent credit requires you to be disciplined and responsible with your spending. Tip number 5, start investing. So if not having good money habit kept me spending, having a budget allowed me to start investing. And I'll tell you guys this, I missed on so much opportunities for making hundreds of thousands of dollars only if I started investing earlier. And I remember during the whole COVID shutdown, I literally sat home, watched people make millions of dollars online just because they were investing. And what was I doing? Absolutely nothing. So if you're going to take anything away from this video, other than budgeting, start investing early. Imagine this, right? Starting in your 20s, if you assume a 10% return in the S&P 500 and you deposited $100 a week for the next 10 years, guess what? You would have $87,000 right now. And that's a lot of money, so you can put into something like a new car, or even better, a down payment on a new home. And that's why you should start investing early, because it can give you a massive advantage compared to the people who don't. And at some point, it could even become passive incomes where you not have money working for you, right? Because if you do it long enough, your account will grow to the point that you're making so much money, you can now live off the dividend and the interest. Tip number 6, invest in yourself. Yeah, I said it, invest in yourself. That's very important too. Check this out, right? Just like businesses have bank account, they have insurance, they have useful life, you have the same thing too. And one of the best investments you're ever gonna make is in your business, and that's yourself. So what does that mean? Well, it means that you should constantly keep educating yourself about personal finance, joining online seminars, or even doing something as simple as going to the gym so you can remain healthy. Keeping your body in shape is a great way to invest in your own personal business, right? And let's be realistic. Who do you know wants to invest in an unhealthy business? Exactly. What if you go bankrupt? Ain't nobody got time for that. And this is something I'm completely guilty of, and I started doing it in my late 20s, and it made a huge difference. I just didn't know that doing something so small can have such a massive impact. And investing also go into the idea of networking, QPO, quality people only. So what does that mean? I'm talking about people who's going to mentor you, who's going to push you to become the best version of yourself, and also going to help you to achieve your goal. So what you want to do is you want to invest at a younger age in your 20s so you can then reap the benefit in your 30s. Tip number 7, pay off your student loan. So one of the biggest debt most people have in their 20s is their student loan. And my final and last tip to you is to try to pay off your student loan as fast as possible. And I know that sounds a little crazy, but trust me, it's worth it. And remember earlier when I said if you invest $100 in the S&P 500 for 10 years, you can expect to make $87,000, right? Well, the exact same principle can apply to paying down your student loan. So according to Forbes, as of 2024, the average student loan debt is about $29,000. So if you're in that range, your goal is to try to pay that money back as fast as possible, because you don't want the interest to start piling up, because if that happens, it's going to be very difficult to pay that money back. So this is what you want to start doing, right? I recommend investing $100 a week towards that debt, but that also means that you may have to lower down your living standards a bit, but that's where that budgeting comes in, right? Because it already gives you a clear picture of how money is moving in and out of your account. But it's worth it, right, guys? Because if you pay off that debt, you're going to essentially take off a huge burden off your shoulder. And guess what? You don't ever have to think about it again. And I kind of understand that it's easier said than done, but trying to pay it off as fast as possible, even if it means taking on like a side gig or taking extra hours at work, just so you can bring in extra revenue so you can get rid of that debt, it's going to be completely worth it at the end of the day. And one last thing, guys, when I had student loan, one of the first thing I did was try to pay it off as fast as possible, right? Just so I didn't have to accumulate too much interest. And I would have to say it was one of the best decisions I've ever made, because I don't ever have to think about this loan ever again. And I did that when I was on a low income. So if you need help saving money while you're on a low income trying to pay back your student loan, check out our video on how to save money on a low income. And that's pretty much it, guys. These are my top 7 money tips that I wish I knew in my 20s. So thank you guys for watching. And if you found this video informative, you gain any sort of value from it, please don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe and push the notification bell for more on personal finance tips. And I'll see you guys on my next video.